And this is going to be Chutra to serve now and start off this second game. Mike, what do you think John Cook said to his team in the huddle? They've been here before down a game early.
Well, they've been down a game. They've been down two games. This is a veteran team, very strong-willed, and even if they lose the first two, they're going to come back and hoteling with a nice hit off the block there to get things started for Nebraska.
And the first game, this is how it's shaped up, as you said. For Cal, Pressey and Chutra are combining for 15 of those 21 kills. And the hitting errors for Nebraska really tell the story, but they're up 1-0 now, and now it's tied 1-1.
And that's one thing that a good block will do to you. When the block starting to get some blocks, you get into the hitters' heads, and all of a sudden the hitters start making more errors as well. A good block is not only what you see in the statistics in blocks, but what you don't see in the statistics in intimidation.
And another one right there, and that's what Rich Feller said, the frustration he sees his opponents go through when Cal keeps coming up with all these blocks. He said it's helped them so much.
And Pressey with a great dig out there. And a great block, and her block was actually heading out of bounds, but it hit Tracy Stalls on the way out, and that's a big block for Cal.
It was a service error by the libero, Kristen Capon. This is hoteling serving. Pressey, nice up by the libero for Nebraska Banworth, but there was just too much velocity on that kill.
And again, Carrie Lloyd, a good job of getting that pass well off the net and setting a perfect ball to the outside. Pressey knows what to do with it.
Morgan back with a service error, and now it's 3-all.
Tracy Stalls serving.
Stalls, another three-time All-Big Ten, another All-American. She was working out with the U.S. national team last summer. And a nice kill by Lloyd.
Lloyd taking advantage of the lack of communication for Nebraska up there at the net. You always got to know when that setter's in the front row. That time, no Nebraska blocker up, and just goes up and throws it down. Nice play by the freshman setter.
That's Pressey on the serve. Back set for Cooper, and once again effective. Corey Cooper on that backslide has just been unstoppable.
Corey Cooper so effective, just a sophomore, and really getting stronger and stronger, and connecting so well with Holloway right now.
That's Holloway serving. And a block up front by Jordan Larson, and a solo block, which is tough to come by against this Cal offense.
And that time Jordan Larson knows the setter's in the front row and gets up there early, and Lloyd gets a little greedy and pays for it.
Tried to use the same move in a row, but the experienced Larson won't fall for that. Chutra painting the line on the left side. That was perfectly placed.
And Chutra in game one was just beating the balls cross court. This time she comes out, experienced hitter that she is, high, ooh, down the line. That's a great hit on the outside.
Larson, nice up by Pressey. Now Cooper has to set for Patton. Off the block, but kept alive by Orchard. Pressey tried to dump a nice cover by Banworth. And Cal tries to keep it alive, but it was a little too tough to get over on that left side, and Nebraska now up 6-5.
And Holloway did this play a couple of times last night, so effective of taking a set from the middle of the court and just dumping it over the net for a kill.
Nice dig by Holloway. The hoteling got a little fancy, and she paid for it.
Carrie Lloyd going to serve what I call the McEnroe serve, just going to stay on the ground and just whip it like it's a tennis serve.
And that's easy pickings for Cat Riley up in the middle.
And the McEnroe comes through for Cal.
Mike, why is that serve so hard to control?
It's really not. I mean, you should be able to take a serve that's just a topspin serve standing and be able to control it. But she moves it around, goes down the line, hits the seams, and she's very effective with that serve.
That one was just outside the line, and Nebraska ties it up 7-7, and this is Banworth, the freshman libero, to serve. Pressey now setting, but they're going to call a double hit, and Nebraska gets the ball back. 8-7. just a monster on that outside. And what can Nebraska possibly do to defend against something like that?
Well, they're drifting on their outside on the block. That's the first thing. They've got to get it together and just do the best they can to put up as solid as a block as they can, and then let the defense try to make plays around it. And it's not easy. It's much easier said than done. And Chutra is such an experienced hitter that she's really taking advantage of everything that Nebraska's giving her right now. Every time Nebraska block gets a little unorganized and undisciplined, she finds the seam and takes advantage.
Well, as we said, she's from Zagreb, Croatia, and played a lot of international volleyball while she was there, and then came to Cal.
Yeah, a lot of junior national team experience, and that's volleyball at a very high level at a young age. And she shows, she's just a sophomore in the scorebook, but she plays a much more veteran style of game, and doing a lot of good things for Cal. And Hoteling that time taking an inside set, just finding the coffin corner.
Just going back to Chutra for a second, she's from Croatia, but she is actually 19 years old, so she is a true sophomore in every sense of the word. And there's Ellen Orchard coming up with a kill, and Cal ties it 10-10.
The only way she's not a sophomore is in the way that she plays on the court. Her experience and her composure. She's just she doesn't get upset or anything. She doesn't show a lot of emotion until she makes a great play.
Rich Feller said when she came to Cal, she was terminating to a fault. She's got it under control now, a lot more efficient. And speaking of efficient, there's Stalls, and she's third in the country in hitting percentage. Stalls, it's her experience, it has to be. Just shows when is the right time to really go for it and when's the time to pull back.
Yeah, and middle hitters are consistently of the highest percentage of hitting, and she's definitely one of the best there is.
Rachel Schwartz now in for the Cornhuskers. Started as a walk-on, but now has played her way into a solid bench player for Nebraska.
And again, Cal coming back with that same back flare to Ellen Orchard, and she rips it cross court.
This is going to be Pressey to serve again. That's Schwartz on the serve receive. Pavin, nice up in the backcourt by Cal. And Schwartz taking a shooter a kill, getting it back over. Here's shooter again, and that one's gonna land. Cal's up now 12-11.
And Hona Shutra continues to bang away on the outside. Some nice defense from both teams. And this is a tough set on the outside. She just takes a little off and finds the seam. Again, that experienced, calm hitting on the outside, huge for Cal right now.
Here's Pavin right into the net. And that time, Cal didn't need the block.
And again, the hit into the net, but a lot of that is caused by the fear of the block, and Cal's doing a real good job of getting two blockers out there on Pavin on every play.
And a serving error on Pressey, and I think Nebraska got bailed out a little there.
Absolutely, Nebraska was reeling for a bit there and got let off the hook.
That's Holloway. Shudra just finding that seam in the block there. Not intimidated by that at all.
No, not at all. And you could see a little bit of frustration there in Sarah Pavin. She's big, 6'5" out there on Shudra. She wants to get a block and establish herself. And again, Shudra just finds a way to get it through.
Pavin, the tallest player in Nebraska history at 6'5". There's a high set for her. Nice up by Daly. Here's Chutura. And there's a roof by Nebraska.
And there you see a little bit of animation there for Corey Cooper. She reached into that, took that seam away and got a big block there on Chutra in transition. That's important. Nebraska needs to start getting more blocks on the outside hitters.
There's Chutra, but it hits the antenna. And the point will go to Nebraska. And now they are tied things up.
Rich Filler makes a substitution there, try to just kind of change the momentum a little bit.
Chutra again, and if you're the libero, Banworth, you can't get frustrated by things like that.
That's a daunting task. You can see her. We were in the perfect angle on that play, and you could see Chutra coming right at the libero, and that's just heavy, hard heat that gets on you fast.
We're back with more after this. It's game 2. We're in Madison. Cal leads 15-14, and for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, once again finding themselves in a hole here in the second game. But this is a familiar spot for them. Last year they were down 0-2 to Minnesota in the regional final, came back and won in 5 games. Last night they were down 0-2 to Michigan State and were able to pull it out 15-9 in the 5th.
And that's just a mark of a very disciplined and a great program that has a tradition that's steeped in winning, and they know even when they're down by 2 games that if they play their game with their talent and their skill level, that they can come back and win a match. And it's one thing, body language is so important in sports, and you look at the Nebraska team, and even when they're down, and even when it looks like they've got a lot of pressure on them, their eyes and their focus and their body language is still always positive. So that's a tribute to John Cook, the coach of Nebraska, tribute to the program, and a tribute to the players.
What they did last night, 28-all in the 4th game. Tracy Stalls comes up with a huge kill, and then it was over from there.
Yeah, and Chutra continues to keep the pressure on Nebraska with this jump serve. She hits what we call in volleyball a heavy ball, and what that is you see it come off her hand, and it just gets on you much faster than you think it's going to get there, and it just catches the passers just not ready to pass that ball, and they're hoteling with a nice little cuff down the line. It's a big point for Nebraska.
To pull within 1. Yeah, Chutra, 2 speeds on that. Lightning and warp.
Exactly.
Nothing in between. Here's Pavin. And easy pickings for hoteling up on the left side. And Carly Lloyd really got left out there for the solo block.
Well, Carly Lloyd was in the back row, so she can't go up and block on that play, and that's a smart play for hoteling, knowing where she is on the court and taking advantage of that open net.
Except for Pressey, who's been quiet the last couple points. And a great dig in the backcourt by Cal. Nebraska keeps it alive, and a free ball for Cal. And now a block by Nebraska, and they stuck with the play the entire way. And they take the lead 18-17.
And here's just a ricochet play. Holloway with great reactions. Hoteling and Stalls coming back for a huge block on the right side there, and there's no substitute for athleticism. That was just quickness and eye-hand coordination for Nebraska.
And those reflexes. Pavin again, into the net again, and she's had a few service errors so far this match.
Yeah, Nebraska really hasn't gotten to their rhythm serving, and after that serve, I looked over at John Cook, and you just see he's putting his hand over his face, and it can be very frustrating over on that sideline.
Larson, nice up by Lloyd. Orchard helped it over, but Stalls was there. Hoteling tried the dump, didn't work, and Chutra puts it right in the net.
Cal did everything right on that play, and just Chutra couldn't put the ball down, but they played great defense, scrapped all over the floor, kept the ball alive.
This is hoteling to serve with Nebraska up 19-18. Pavin. And right off the back row, and that was Carly Lloyd, who couldn't handle the kill.
And again, Orchard and Lloyd continue to struggle with their connection in the middle. They're just out of rhythm, and finally Nebraska takes advantage of that broken play.
Nebraska leads by 2 points in this second game. There's more volleyball coming up after this.
For the
Thank you.
It's game 2. Nebraska leads 20-18, but down 1-0 to Cal. Catch every serve, set, and spike of the NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship on ESPNU Saturday night. It's the #1 seed Stanford facing UCLA in the regional final. The NCAA Women's Volleyball Championship presented on ESPNU by Enterprise Rent-A-Car on ESPNU Saturday night at 11:30 Eastern. For more info, log on to ESPNU.com. And Mike, we know how mentally tough Nebraska is. They've come back from 0-2, but how important is getting this second game?
It's always important. I mean, it's obviously the way Nebraska can come back. It's not the end of the world. They've been down 0-2 before and come back and won, but anytime you can lose the first, come back and win the second, it always seems like when you go into that break, that team that wins that second game comes out in the third with a little extra momentum. So I think this second game is critical.
It's Kat Daly serving for UCLA. That was Larson on the kill attempt. And Pressey using the block, and Cal has tied this up 20-20.
And Larson just took a little bit off that hit on the outside, and Kathan came right in and dug it, and another nice defensive transition for point for Cal.
And a service error for Daly. And Nebraska will get the serve back. As Schwartz returns for Nebraska, she replaces Tracy Stalls. And Lloyd with the quick dump, and it works again for her.
And again, Nebraska just not communicating, not on Lloyd, maybe giving her a little disrespect there, and Lloyd just going up. She's very athletic, well over the net, and just throws it down.
There was plenty of space for her, too. Pressey serving again. Larson, and a huge block by Cal. That's what they're known for. That's what they do better than anyone in the Pac-10.
And that set's a little low, a little tight. Larson's got to find a way to maybe take something off that, but she wanted to take advantage of the setter out there, Lloyd, and Lloyd did a great job of sealing that line. Big block for Cal.
There's Larson, and not allowing Cal to get on any sort of run. That was a rocket to the backcourt.
And again, give Rachel Holloway credit. She goes right back out to Larson, which you have to do with your great outside hitters, and Larson delivers.
This is Holloway on the serve. And a free ball for the Huskers. Pavin just punked that one right out of the air. A nice set by Holloway.
Fitzfeller going to get Morgan Beck back in there, a nice passer, settle down this offense right now.
Nebraska leads 23-22. It's the second game of the NCAA regional final, and that's Hana Chutura, the sophomore from Croatia, doing it again.
Chutura just delivering down the line, but again, give the coach Feller credit. He brings in Morgan Beck. She delivers a perfect pass, and that sets up the whole offense. Coaches making big moves.
14 kills for Chutura tonight. Again, using the block again.
And Chutura that time, the set was inside. She made a nice step in, reached high, and just took a little off it, took it high off the block, and another great display of outside hitting.
And John Cook wants to talk it over with his team. They still haven't found a way to get the blocks over quickly enough to try to neutralize Chutura.
Well, it's so difficult for them because, you know, they face a series of 3 rotations with Pressey hitting outside where she goes up, hangs around for a while, and you really have to delay your block. Then you go up against Chutura, 6'3", reaches so high, and you know, she doesn't hang as much. So it's just the rhythm of the Nebraska block is being thrown off by the uniqueness of the outside hitting of Cal.
It's a great point. For up-to-the-minute news for everything that is college sports, log on to ESPNU.com. If you don't have ESPNU, be sure to log on to ESPNU.com. You can just type in your zip code at the top of the page or call your local cable operator or satellite provider. Log on to ESPNU.com today. All right, Mike, so at this point, Cal now 6 points away. For this combination of the Cal Bears, young players and experience. What are they hoping to do now? What are they hoping to expose out of Nebraska now?
Well, I think for them right now, they just want to try to continue with the momentum they've built up through game 1 and here through game 2. It looked like Nebraska was starting to impose their will a little bit. They started to enjoy a bit of a lead through the late teens and early 20s of this, but all of a sudden Cal turned it around with, again, great blocking and defense.
Another good block there by Lloyd and Riley. Here's Riley again, but it's blocked by Cooper. Shooter off the block, nice up by Hotan.
And again, Holloway with what we call the club dump. It's not one that starts well above the net, but starts in the middle of the court. She just fakes like she's going to the middle hitter and shoots it over the net. And again, Cal gets caught off guard and unable to make that defensive play.
Here's Larson. Nice dig by Cal. Here's Cooper passing to Hoteling, and it's just out of bounds, and Cal will take over 25-24.
And again, that was kind of a semi-free ball that Nebraska really didn't get much out of it as far as transition.
Here's the spin serve by Lloyd, and it's got a lot of pop on it. Great block on the left side by Cal. And perfectly placed by Jordan Larson. Very deceptive there as she was faking the big swing.
And last night against Michigan State, Larson was really the MVP. And again tonight, she's making all the big plays for Nebraska.
20 kills last night. That was a career high for Jordan Larson. Shooter now right back at Larson, and there was no way to dig that one up.
And she's hitting out there. You know, against Pavin and Stalls, there's no excuse for Nebraska. She's just finding a way and finding holes in that block.
16 kills now for Chuter. And a miscommunication by Nebraska, and that's going to drop. And now Cal 3 points away from taking a 2-0 lead on the reigning national champs.
With a 2-point lead, and again, John Cook's going to take a timeout. And this really seems like a repeat. You look at John Cook over there, his body language is very similar to last night against Michigan State. It just seems like Nebraska is making a lot of uncharacteristic plays that are really frustrating to a coach that is used to such a high level of play and such athleticism, and he's not getting what he wants out there on the court. Are
you surprised at all that it seems like Nebraska plays best when their backs are completely against the wall, especially for such a veteran, experienced a team that won a national championship? It's tough for them to come out with a lot of firepower.
Yeah, it's interesting. They were definitely flat coming out last night against Michigan State. They seemed like they had a little more pop at the beginning of the match, but certainly Cal is a very strong team, and with their block and their serving, they're putting a lot of pressure on Nebraska. So it's not so much that Nebraska's you know, like not showing fire or not hustling or not trying. Cal's playing very good, and Nebraska just isn't very precise, and they're not, you know, they're not on their A game. And maybe you can get away with not being on your A game against Michigan State, against a very strong Cal team, #1 in the Pac-10 in blocking and serving. Maybe that's a different story, and certainly we'll ask Coach Cook going into the break what his plans are for Cal.
Cal having their best year ever. Their first time in the regional final, and they have a 1-0 lead, but that was Tracy Stalls, and it seems like every time Nebraska needs a point, they go to Stalls, and she's there to deliver.
And I tell you, Nebraska needs to set their middles a little more. Every time they go to their middles, it's almost an automatic kill, and they need to find a way to get better passing, better ball control, and more sets to their middles.
That's Pressey using the block. And now Cal's 2 points away from a 2-0 lead.
And Angie Pressey did a great job. Another tight set on the outside, and she saw Holloway on that line, just reached high and tooled the setter out of bounds.
Here's the libero, Kristen Cathan. Hoteling, but nice block by Orchard and Beck. Hoteling and a great dig by the libero, but
ball hit the ground, and a kill for Hoteling on that play. It looked like her platform was right in front of it and the ball popped up, but the ball hit right in front on the ground. Just one of those bang bang plays, and the officials were on it.
That was referee Dale Rode on the call. Morgan Beck using the block. And another Cal block. This time it was Orchard and Lloyd.
Angie Pressey doing such a good job on that left side. She really has great technique and seals that line so she doesn't get tooled.
Here's Beck with the big jump serve. Cal with game point. And Pavin saves another one. And it's now 29-28 Cal.
And here we're at the same scenario that we were at in game one. That Cal is able to put themselves in a position with rally scoring to receive this serve. You've got Chutra in the back row right now, only 2 hitters. So watch this, either Chutra from the 10-foot line or out to Pressey on the outside. It's not rocket science.
This is Schwartz on the serve. Game point for Cal. The dump by Orchard. Pavin, and that one's going to touch the floor, and now it's 29-29 in the second game.
There you see maybe a little mistake there by your freshman setter. You've got world-class outside hitting, a chance to go up 2-0 on Nebraska, and you try to force it to the middle. Not a wise decision.
Lloyd tried to help it over. That was Larson, but it was dug in the backcourt. Larson again, and another good block by Cal. Lloyd for Pressey, and it's good. It's 30-29 Cal. They're 1 point away from a 2-0 lead.
And again, big blocking by California at the net, setting up Pressey on the outside. All started with the blocks for Cal.
And now Pressey has another game point and chance to take a 2-0 lead into the intermission. Shallow serve. Kept up by Cal. Pipe step. And that one was going out of bounds, but Hoteling kept it alive. Free ball now for Cal. Shutra, nice up by Hoteling. And the kill by Orchard, and Cal takes a 2-0 lead against the reigning national champs.
Cal continues to battle, continues to block at the net, and that's been the big difference so far.
Ellen Orchard has been doing it all night, and for Cal, I think their best offense is a really good defense.
Cal did a real good job of getting out there, even though Orchard was moving the other way. She made an effort to get out there, was a little late, and got the block.
So Cal now takes a 2-0 lead right here in the NCAA Women's Regional Finals. And the Nebraska Cornhuskers once again down 0-2 for the second night in a row. Sports Center U is coming up next. We're at intermission. Cal's leading 2-0 over Nebraska.